Well, hi everyone, it's me, Kat. So, today is the day. It's August 22nd, 2020. And at just before midnight this day, 1 year ago, as most of you already know, the king of my heart, the love of my life, fell off his throne in such a magnanimous way that it's still unfathomable. However, I woke up this morning to the most powerful text message from my daughter, who was one of the my husband had, if you knew him, my husband was larger than life. He was always the biggest personality in the room, the biggest presence in the room. But for all that he was a very private person. He was very careful who he allowed into his atmosphere, really close. If there were 24 people on the face of this planet ever in his lifetime that he allowed himself to connect with on a very personal level, that might be a stretch. It was me and my daughter and my son. And there was so very few people that my husband truly loved and cared for. And it was an honor. It was an honor to be loved by Zach Williamson. He loved so big and so much that you would have to have known what it was like to be in his halo in order to appreciate what I'm saying. Sadly, the people who mattered to him the most were not of his blood. His family threw him away. His mother threw him away. His family abandoned him and discarded him like a piece of trash. My husband used to laugh and call himself Trash Can Boy, because all the days of his life, he could never understand why his mother threw him away. She threw him away. His brothers and sisters abandoned him. His father, I suppose he did the best that he could, but he could have done better. My husband was discarded by the people that were supposed to care for him and the people who he counted on. I mean, when you're abandoned by your mother, I can't imagine what that feels like. I can only say that having lived with someone who battled that demon every day of his life, morning, noon, and night, it wasn't optimal. The hole that she left in his heart, the hole that his family left for him, is the hole that he slipped down. That's the truth. It's the sobering truth. It's the tragic truth. My point being that once my husband finally found a home, he finally found a family, and he finally found people that he could count on and lean on as a support system. The man who raised my husband, his name is Rick. I'll tag him in this later. That was my husband's father. It's the truth. Rick went into my husband's life 11, 12 years ago, just before I met him. And I believe with every shred of my being, that was the first presence in my husband's life that led him to the great things that he was able to accomplish. And the person that he was, I attribute a lot of that to him. And how awesome is that? It's awesome, but it's also sad because, you know, he had a father, and he had older brothers that could have done a hell of a lot better job. He wanted so badly to have his family, but to them, they used to call him the Zach of shit. And I guess it was meant to be a joke, but my husband didn't like being called the Zach of shit. He hated it. And again, walking around the face of this planet with trash can boy in his mind, you know. I woke up today to a text from my daughter Gia, and the text was a screenshot of her alarm that she had set for today, and it said, "I survived." And she sent me that this morning, and I thought to myself, yes, you did survive, Gia, and so have I. And with that, I thought to myself, you know, I have two choices. There are two different paths I can take today on this day, which memorializes probably, I mean, honestly, losing my daughter was tough. Losing the first man that I ever loved in my life, the blaze of glory, that was tough. But Zach, you know, it was even more so, because his presence and the power that he had in our atmosphere, and everything that he touched, and everything that he was, and everything that he enacted and enabled, all of the different courses that he set for all of us were just there are no words. I could either, as most people in my position, a widow, when you're grieving the loss of anyone, when you're grieving the loss of a loved one that has passed, there are certain days that come about that, you know, it's sad, and people tend to drown themselves in the sadness and the grief and the angst and the heartache and the tragedy. Relive the trauma, relive the pain. I mean, that's the most obvious way that most people go, because it's the truth. I mean, that's an anniversary comes up of a special occasion. That's, you know, it's a part of this game that we're in. But I've decided I'm making a choice today. I'm not going to do that. I can choose to look at this one of either two ways. I can either choose to take this day and drown in it, die all over in it, experience it, feel it, remember every innuendo of how this day was a year ago today. Not just that, but everything that led up to it as well. It was a long 4 months watching my husband fall apart. That I remember, which leads me to my second choice. I can choose to, rather than live this day out loud in pain and trauma and let myself be re-traumatized by everything, I can choose to rise above it. My husband left a crown on my head, so shiny and so bright. I'm going to choose to go with that. I'm going to choose to revel in the memories and the beauty and everything powerful and wonderful that he left behind. That's my choice, and that's what I'm going to choose to do. I'm going to honor him. I'm going to honor him, and I'm going to tell you something else. Watching someone die out loud the way that I did, unless you would have had to have been where I was and experience it firsthand. It was heavy. It was heavy, and it was hard, and it was heartbreaking to watch. It was heartbreaking. Watching someone die out loud the way that I had to, that was pain. That was tragedy. That was a trauma. And it's a trauma that I'm choosing to let go of, because I can't do that. I can't keep that burden on my shoulders and still keep rising the way that I'm choosing to rise. I have to let it go. I have to let it go, not just for me, but for my husband as well, because here's why. That man lived an entire lifetime of pain and heartache and sorrow and sadness and loneliness, emptiness, loss. My husband was abandoned. He was an abandoned child. He was an abandoned brother. He was abandoned by just about all of the people. He was abandoned by everyone he needed the most. He hurt and he ached and he cried and he sobbed. And that was no way for a human being to live. To the point where it literally, it ate his mind. It ate chunks of his head away. And in the end, he literally went batshit fucking crazy. That's the truth. Again, a lot of you don't know, and you'll never know what really, really, really went down in the months before he left. He got sick, and I'm choosing to, I forgive the person that my husband was when he left. Wasn't the person that we knew and the person that we loved. He was a broken, fucked up beyond human recognition man. He was a shell of a man. He was only a memory of the person that he really, really was in his glory. And the 11 best years of his life, the crowning achievement and the legacy that he left, he did so much for us in the decade that we had him before he got sick and he went away. So I'm going to hold on to that 10 years. I'm going to cherish it. I'm going to emulate it. I'm going to honor it. I'm going to be proud of it and thankful. I am thankful. I am so thankful that I got to have that man. I was his first true love. I was his first everything. I was my husband's first of everything. We were his only family. We were his everything. We got the first and the best of every part of that man. And how lucky are we? Because a lot of people can never say something like that. So I have to, for his sake as well, for all the peace that he could never find, for all the peace that he could never find here on this earth, I'm not going to take that from him today. Today I choose to celebrate him. And if it is true that I believe that he can see us, he is with us, and I don't want to see him hurting anymore. I don't want him to look down and see us crying and falling apart. I want him to look down and smile. And I want him to get that peace that he deserved to have all the days of his life that he could never find. So I'm giving it to him. I'm going to celebrate you today, honey. You really did. You left a legacy. A little bit broken at the end, but we can forgive that part. Because for everything that you were and all that you gave to us, we can do that for you. So I choose joy. Bye everyone. It's me, Kat.